Almost looked like Orange County was not going to get a result this past Saturday, but thanks to one of the Iloski brothers, they at least got a point, and they maybe put a little damper on the night of the San Diego loyal traveling fans. We'll talk about that. Let's talk about a bunch of other stuff. Let's get this thing started. Welcome to the Podcast of Champions. This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
One large exhale. Trouble. Arosarena's feet. Orange County opens the scoring. It's Thomas. Kuninga scores! The old guard with a new trophy.
This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. Follow us on Twitter at OCSC_SoccerCast or on Facebook at Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
How's it going, Orange County? Welcome to another episode of the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. I'm your host, Ray Samora. I'm here to take you through this journey as we discuss all things Orange County Soccer Club. Let's figure out who's helping me out tonight. First and foremost, let's welcome on the man, the original part of this duo team that has now become just a big team of people talking about this. But that's Dylan. How are we doing, Dylan? Were you at the match this past weekend?
No, I was not, but I did get to watch. Yeah,
I want to say, Dylan, I guarantee you there's probably a good 5 or 6 people that have been missing you this season, not showing up to the game. So, that's at least it's not a big group of people that are counting on you being there, right?
Yeah, that's good. And hey, my voice is probably happier on Sunday mornings. But yeah, I've been meaning to get down, and it just really has not worked out with work. And it's a bummer. I'm just glad to be able to watch them at least, so I can come here and talk some trash. Hopefully over the winter, I can actually make my way down and hang out, do some nonsense.
Yeah, Dylan's going to come down to the stadium over the wintertime when there's no soccer being played. That's awesome, Dylan.
Yeah.
Next up, let's bring on the man down from San Diego, Mr. Bag of Ruffle potato chips himself, Mr. Alan Underwood in San Diego. How you doing, my man?
Doing all right. It's been a whirlwind tour of a weekend for me. I just got back from Sacramento. So I'm glad to be here. I got a chance to make my way to Championship Soccer Stadium this past weekend and see a very entertaining game in front of a packed house to kind of celebrate the end of the season for Orange County on what I think is a little bit of a high note with the way it ended, at least with the last goal. So it was nice to see the crowd out there, really positive energy, and a heck of a game. I thought it was very entertaining.
And trivia for the night: who has been to more Orange County games at Championship Soccer Stadium this season, Alan or Dylan? Let's find out if someone knows the answer. Let's bring on Brad from Reno. Do you know the answer to that question, Brad?
I plead the fifth.
We all know that at least they've beaten you or at least tied you. I don't know. Wait, Dylan, have you made any games this season?
Yes.
Okay.
I have.
He has made at least one game, folks. Brad, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing quite all right. My neck hurts, but that's because I have to carry you guys all the time, so not a big deal.
Wow. He starts off the show with the low blow.
Oh my God.
I'm just preparing for my fight later,
I will say this, Brad. From what I know, I don't think you're on your own on this fight, so don't be too worried about it. I don't think you are by yourself on this fight that I think is potentially coming up. I don't know. But let's bring on the last person that's here to join us. He's warming up in the corner there of some random bedroom in Orange County. That's Mr. Larry. How we doing, Larry?
I'm doing good. I am absolutely overjoyed to be here as always, especially when I'm going to be, fighting here shortly.
And we know Larry was at the match. Alan was at the match. I think out of all of us, our producer, Andy, I believe, was at the match. So we're at a good, at least on screen, we're at less than 50% of attending the match. I was at a wedding, so I couldn't help it. My
You could have been there.
sister was getting married in Temecula, so I could not make it to the match. So I apologize. Larry, what were your thoughts on the atmosphere at the Championship Soccer Stadium over the weekend?
Electric right from the kickoff. It was loud. County Line Coalition. I spent time on both sides being down there on the pitch with the live tweet. County Line Coalition, I could hear them all the way down at the far end. I could hear them as well as I could hear the locals who made their presence known like they always do. They mostly did their team proud. I give them credit for that. But this was a good crowd, and the fans were very much into the game. That general admission section was really loud the whole night. And County, I think County represented themselves pretty damn good there on Saturday night. I like the way the team looked. Shame we didn't have that all year.
Well, let's talk about this match, right? Because by all appearances, it seemed like Orange County was close to another disappointing outcome until the other Iloski brother saves the day with a 90th minute equalizer right there in front of County Line Coalition and all the fans there in the general admission stands. What a way, I guess, to end your home season, whatever we want to call it. I can't even think about it right now, right? Probably would have felt better if Kubo's header doesn't get miraculously saved in like the 92nd minute or whatever, 93rd minute, whenever that was. Because, man, you watch that. That probably is, when you look at it, that's probably one of the better shots that Kubo has had all season. It was a powerful header. Props to what's the goalkeeper for San Diego's name?
Coque Vegas.
Coque Vega.
Coque Vegas.
Coca-Cola.
Props to him on an awesome save. That probably should be up for save of the week because that's a pretty tough save to make their point blank header with power. Orange County had a chance for all 3 points, which would have probably been the icing on the cake. But I think the way the match played out, Orange County fans probably left the stadium happy to at least pull away 1 point from that. I'm going to go. I want to go to an Orange County fan first that was at the stadium. So, Larry, you get the first crack at this. What were your thoughts overall with the game on the pitch? And do you think the outcome was the right outcome for this match?
No, I feel like from my vantage point, from standing on the sidelines, I feel like we outplayed San Diego for 70 of the 90 minutes. Others might disagree. I thought County looked as good as we've looked all year. The free kick from Jack Blake for the goal, that's just a great kick. I mean, that's just a great free kick. You can't get mad about that. It was fantastic. Perfect spot. There's nothing Rack is going to do about that one. And then, Milan's goal right at the end of the first half was just another thing of beauty, as he's been doing all year. He froze the San Diego goalkeeper. Milan's goal late, Brian's goal late to tie it up was also just a gorgeous goal. And then that ending, we were so close, and I had a great angle watching the San Diego goalkeeper stop that one, and it was a fantastic stop. But I felt like we outplayed them for most of this game, and I felt like we could have very easily taken this game on 3-1, 3-2. It was just a couple unfortunate breaks. San Diego's a good team. I won't be mad if they win the championship because then the trophy stays in Southern California. I know people are going to disagree with that as well, but I'm okay with that. It was a good game. It was a lot of fun. A lot of noise from the crowds. Boo this man.
I think Larry's just ready to start fights left and right tonight. Is what it appears to be with a lot of his comments. Let me go to a San Diego viewpoint of this match here. Alan, were you sitting with us traveling with the away fans for this match, or were you sort of roaming the stadium? Did you head up to the press box? What was your
I was up in the press box
Okay.
for the entirety of the match.
So then I got to ask you this really quick, Alan. That Kubo header, what was the reaction from the people up in that area? Because I know when you're in that, for those that don't know, when you're up in the press box, you're literally a window away from owner James Keston, GM Oliver Weiss. Who else is up there? I think Peter Nugent's up there from time to time. So you get some good reactions. We don't usually share those reactions, but I'm going to ask you this. Just throw it out there. What was the reaction when that header left Kubo's head, and then when everyone realized that it was a save?
I think everyone collectively like held their breath. There was like a kind of a calm when it happened, right? Like it's a really nice header, and then there's a little bit of disappointment from some of the people in the press box. There's a little bit of an exhale from other people in the press box. I think this game probably ended up the way each team kind of deserved something out of it, right? This is Loyal hitting a couple of crossbars. I think Orange County definitely had some opportunities. San Diego goes up 2-1 on Jack Blake's free kick. His family, his grandparents who don't get to see him play were in the stands. So it was like a really special moment for him, which is something you want to, it feels good as a player when you finally get your parents and your wife and family or wife and kids are all there watching and you score something like that. But Orange County definitely had their opportunities. I thought, again, the end result I thought was pretty fair based on the balance of the play. It was clear that when San Diego's up 2-1 late, they substituted out like pretty much everybody. They put in like a guy who usually plays like a defensive wing back position as one of the strikers. It was clear they were going for like, we're going to try and win this or escape with a draw. But tip the cap to Orange County for continuing to fight. Like it felt really special to kind of have that goal in front of County Line Coalition, especially after what's been happening over the past, couple months with the team. Had a chance to talk with, the coach after the match too. And this just shows like the thin margins that exist between a top team in the standings and a bottom team in the standings. Orange County's not really been out of a ton of the games, and it really boils down to maybe a player different. Orange County season looks a little bit different, so there was a lot of positivity, and it was kind of like, all right, well, that goal was pretty special. San Diego still lock up second place with the draw, so it's not super heartbreaking. Like it's heartbreaking to lose like that or to drop points like that, but on Milan Iloski's goal, it was just like I told Oliver before the match, like I'm just looking forward to a Milan Iloski banger because he seems to pull those out against San Diego, and he did it again. And then Brian with that answer at the end, it just kind of it ends Orange County's home season on a positive note. I think builds their momentum in the off season, and a lot of people went away really happy, and that's kind of what you want, right? Your last home game, fans to feel good leaving the stadium, and Orange County did their best to put on a show, and I think a lot of people went home happy.
Let me go to you, Dylan, because you watched it on, I don't know, ESPN Plus or Bally Sports, whatever you chose to watch on, or whatever stream you watch your matches on. But watching the match and seeing the atmosphere at the stadium, I mean, I remember my first match there with you. You didn't have that kind of atmosphere at the stadium where you had packed stands. The general admission section was usually pretty empty, except for County Line Coalition and a few people that were not willing to buy the more expensive, $12 or $15 seats. So just watching that game and seeing the atmosphere, how impressed are you, especially the season Orange County had for this season, not the best of seasons, yet you still see in the last few matches at home a good turnout, and this was no exception. This was a really good atmosphere for the fans. How excited as a longtime Orange County fan are you on that? And then again, share your thoughts on this match.
Yeah, I mean, when I first spoke to you 3.5 years ago, I think
2018, so 4.5 years ago.
Well, oh my God. Wow.
We started our podcast in 2018. If you don't believe me, look at our logo. It says established 2018.
That's something. It was like
you were still literally trees. Just a kid at that time, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't drink. Just like a couple trees in the stands, in a nice meadow. And now it's now look at it. It's like a forest, which is great. It's nice that we turned it up and we showed up here. It's a little frustrating because like this wasn't a great performance from Orange County. Like we've looked better before. San Diego's a very good team. There's a reason they're near the top of the table. So I'm like, well, we could have done better this year based on this performance. And it's not like we looked particularly gelled because we still have a guy who was a forward 7 years ago in his career playing as a center back and looked. Let me tell you, as a guy playing out of position, I don't think anyone's making any defenses there about Brent Richards' ability to kind of play wherever. So it's nice. Like it's good. We got a nice fun feeling, and things ended well. And hopefully, the more casual fans come back next year because wow, that was really exciting. A near goal in the 94th and an actual goal in the 90th. Like that was amazing. It's got to be a short leash next year, I think, for the performances. They have to be like tonight. I have just this nagging thing in the back of my head that says we could have done this all season long.
Well, I think behind the scenes, I can't remember if it was on the fan Discord or on our private Discord, there was talk about the amount of points this team has dropped from winning, from being ahead and then dropping points. And I believe the conversation was if we retain half of those points, we're sitting maybe fifth or sixth and we're in the playoffs. So totally different story. And then I like Alan's point there, right? We're one player away from maybe the season looking differently. And when you look back at the season, right, we've lost multiple key players, whether it was they got sold off to Europe or just injury issues, right? Because can you imagine Rob Kieran there all season, what this team looks like on defense? Or if you have a Ronaldo Damas or,
Eric Calvillo, to be
Eric
completely
Calvillo, if he's there all season helping us out there. If you don't lose Danny Acosta, who you pretty much penciled in as a starter in your defense when you signed him on here. If you don't, sell Kobe Henry when he's on a high point, when you're going to get money for him, if you instead try and play and just keep him because you want to win now mentality, which we obviously know that's not Orange County's thing, but there's all these different players that maybe if just one of them is healthy or stays on the roster, it could be a totally different story. And we'll get into Larry and Brad's little argument briefly in just a little bit about, maybe if Milan Iloski isn't there, it's a lot worse, although I don't see how it could be much worse than it's been. Brad, let's hear from you on this match as sort of the official outsider. I know you're an Orange County fan. You're always sporting Orange County gear, but you're only really a true Orange County fan because your team decided to fold and you needed a team to cheer for, and you liked Dylan and I for some reason. I don't know why.
Not that half of our starting lineup went down to Orange County or has played.
Well, and that also plays a part of it, right? But so, okay, what were your thoughts on the match? And do you agree with Alan that this was a correct outcome, or are you more on Larry's side where you think Orange County should have picked up the full 3 points on this match?
Well, you see, I don't know why Alan is saying that this was the correct outcome when his prediction was 1-2. I do have the opportunity to say that this was the correct outcome, and I said this on last season's podcast that I was expecting a 2-2 game, and it went almost pretty much exactly like I expected it to. The way the team's been playing lately, we've been giving up a couple of goals, although San Diego's goals, you're never going to stop that Jack Blake goal. It was a thing of beauty. It was probably one of the best taken free kicks I've seen all season. It's a hard spot getting the ball over the wall, away from the goalie, and down below the bar from a yard or two outside the box like he was able to do. So, big congratulations, but big props to him. That was a very hard kick to make. But also this team's been fighting a lot recently. They've been getting some good opportunities on goal. Unfortunately, it's been coming in later in the games, and Brian Iloski's goal is similar to last week where we were talking about, there's no way that only one goal is going to get scored this game, and then late in the game, Orange County scores that equalizer, and it's exactly what you would feel. 7-8 weeks ago, we would have said that's a victory in the books, keeping our playoff chances alive, and now we're just saying, man, it's a feel-good game. And I tweeted this out after the game, but imagine if we put Brent Richards in as a center back. I think he's looked extremely stable and competent, and he knows the system and how to play the role. Even at 32 years old, he's still a top tier USL player and multiple different roles.
And then we wouldn't have had to hear Dylan's complaints about Albie Skendi all season if Brent Richards would have been starting at center back at the beginning. Although I will say on one of those goals in this match, you could see the inexperience of center back from Brent Richards because he was totally out of position. The goal from open play, not the set piece that we saw there. Let's go to that set piece, right? Yeah, obviously, I think I agree with everyone on here. I think you all agree with this statement is I don't think any goalkeeper is stopping that kick. Now, maybe if you have some taller players on the wall for Orange County, then we're stopping the kick because that ball doesn't get too high over the heads of our jumping players. So maybe if you had an Albie Skendi in the match and he's in that wall in the right position, maybe that ball hits him in the top of the head and doesn't go in the back of the neck. So maybe there's a case where we should have had Albie Skendi out there to block that goal. And maybe then we're not talking about this amazing free kick here. For those of you watching the video version or the live stream that you can see, I think it was Ugo Coley was our tallest player on that wall, which he's not a small guy, but he's nowhere near an Albie Skendi sized player. So again, put Albie Skendi in that wall. Maybe you have a different outcome there, and maybe the ball doesn't hit the back of the net. I want to hear from you, Larry. I haven't heard your voice for a while. Your thoughts, because look, if you look there, I think it was Dylan Powers was the one that the ball goes over the head and it doesn't go too far over his head, right? So maybe there's a case that Albie Skendi should have been in the match and been in that wall, and maybe it's a different outcome, right, Larry?
I think if you asked Dylan this question, Dylan would probably say, yes, Albie gets a piece of it, and it still goes into the back of the net anyway.
It goes to the back of the net. An own goal from Albie Skendi from that.
No. Albie Skendi will save that goal, but he'll find a way to allow 2 other goals elsewhere on the pitch.
Well, he would save that goal, and then it wouldn't even go. It wouldn't even go out of bounds. He would chase it down because he's so quick. What we've learned in this season, he's as fast as a cheetah. Larry, go ahead.
Looking at the replay right there as we were talking about it, I mean, you got Partita, all of 5'6" on a really good day. Over there on the far side, the far facing at the far left, and that's not a big wall. It's not that. Either way, it's still I mean, you got Kevin, you got Milan, you got Ugo. It's still a great free kick, no matter who's standing on that wall. It's up high enough to go over Albie's head, I think. Maybe not.
I do not agree with you on that one, Larry. I'm gonna disagree with you. And then I think I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit tonight. So I'm gonna disagree with you on that one.
So you want to fight too? That's fine. I'll take everybody. Let's go.
Well, okay. Let me ask Alan, who is a biased observer for the other side, right? If Albie Skendi's in that position where Dylan Powers is, are you still confident that ball gets over Albie Skendi and gets to the back of the net? Watching what you see on the replay and seeing what you saw at the match.
I mean, that was the best free kick I've seen ever taken in the history of soccer. So I don't think Albie Skendi gets to
it. Oh, he deserved that. He deserved that.
No, a Giovinco free kick at USD when he played for Toronto against Cholos was probably one of the most impressive free kicks I've seen in person. I don't know. Maybe he gets to it. I don't know. Jack Blake, I think that free kick, I think Orange County's been on the other end of free kicks like that, like Cavillo last year, like a Kaningas around the wall. Like, it just sometimes you set up the wall with the best players you have and the player just beats you. And the goalkeeper's like, I set up a wall. I'm not getting to that. Right. Like, I thought it went wide when he shot it, the way that Rakowski reacted. I thought he put it wide. Like, he's like, that's wide. And then it like tucked in. I was like, oh, okay. I'm not sure Albie Skendi gets to it. Like, Ugo doesn't jump. I think that maybe has, like, if he jumps, maybe he gets a little head to it. But again, we've seen this where it hits off the head and still loops in for a goal anyway. It was just a really well taken one. Maybe he gets to it. I'll split these and say, sure, he gets to it, but maybe they score on the corner.
There we go. Let me ask this random question here, because we see, like, in recent years, you see when the wall is set up, I know we didn't see this Orange County, but you'll see like someone laying on the ground at the feet of the wall in case someone wants to kick the ball under the wall, right? Is there any rule against maybe grabbing like a Partita and putting him on your shoulders and grabbing like an Iloski, throwing him on your shoulders to make a really tall wall? These smaller players put him on top of an Ugo, on top of a Dylan Powers. Do we know, is there a rule against this, or is that something maybe we'll see in the near future some teams trying to do to make the wall bigger?
You say the Muppet Man wall?
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is a strategy you might see teams use, unless there's an actual rule against this. If anyone knows of a rule, let me know. I'm going to go to our soccer expert, Dylan. Dylan, is there a rule regarding putting a player on your shoulders on a wall for a free kick?
Well, I'm sure it could be a very unsafe play, and definitely is unsafe play, and so the ref would tell you
what would be unsafe about the play.
That being said, I want to say Croatian or maybe Czech third division team had this very idea on an opposing on an offensive corner. They were like, well, I mean, why jump when we get to have one of our center backs like put a winger on his shoulders and try and do it this way? And sure enough, like the guy hops up and the ref blows and is like, no, you get down. I
want to know the rule though. I want to see if anyone can find a rule on this.
I'm looking it up.
I get it. No referee's going to allow that, but I want to know, is there an actual rule that says you can't do this? Like, we're going to have to like scour the FIFA rule book and see, is there an actual rule that says you can't do that? Because I'd love to see it actually work sometime. And I think in this moment, you put a couple players like a Partita and whoever else is really small on the shoulders of Dylan Powers and Ugo Colli, and maybe that ball hit someone straight in the gut instead of going in the back of the net. Brad wants to say something about this, and then we'll
just do a rugby lineup. Just do a rugby lineup. You have two players come together, lift the third one in the air, get the header in. I'm pretty sure that's easy to set up enough.
Do something like that, or like, this is where you go and you just sign like a cheerleader onto the roster. That's basically their whole role, is they go into the game and they just, throw the player up and then catch them, really, really well so they don't get hurt, right? Any last thoughts on this match before we get into how our predictions worked here?
I'm sure someone's listening and wants to talk about the fact that apparently someone was spit on during this match. Let's be real.
Someone spit what? Who, where, what?
When
someone spit on someone else. There we go. I won't use passive voice. Larry was there.
This is what I was made to understand. There was a group of Orange County supporters, or probably casuals. I think we could probably refer to this group of people, who were seated over there in Section 1. They got moved around halftime over to right over in front of Section 8, the seats behind where they put them on the field seats behind the first row of the field seats. I was talking with, I don't remember who mentioned something about them getting harassed. So I went and talked to the people. And one of the ladies said, you should talk to him. He was actually spit on. So I went over and I talked to this gentleman and I asked him if that was the case. Was he in fact spit on? He goes, yeah, it's one of the locals actually spit on him while they were in the middle of a confrontation. There are three sides to every story. I am just relaying what one side of the story was told to me. I know that there was locals, part of the local support group, who swear up and down that it didn't happen. But I did see a lot of aggressive behavior on the locals' side during the first half when I was down there on that end, tweeting during the game. Little bit obnoxious, little bit rude to some of the OC fans. You go to somebody's house and somebody else's house and you make noise at a soccer game. It's what you do. Was the man in fact spit on? I can only rely upon what he told me and what I was told and what he mentioned. So did it happen? Maybe. According to him, it did. According to the local support group, it didn't. So,
let me put something on here, and then I'm gonna let Alan respond to this because he's sort of our representative of San Diego, although he wasn't in the section, so he probably doesn't know what happened. But I want to let him speak on behalf of San Diego fans, loyal fans, the locals, and all that stuff. But here's one thing that U.S. soccer hasn't quite learned, basically U.S. sports, but U.S. soccer in general, right, is if you're going to have, especially on a derby match, right, like this, where it's San Diego versus Orange County, a packed house, that Section 1 where we know the traveling fans typically are put, it should only be traveling fans in that section to avoid anything like this.
Absolutely.
And when you have a derby like this, although we're nowhere on the levels of what you get maybe in MLS or even in Europe or anything like that, you need to probably have an extra security person or two in that area to monitor these types of things. Again, you'd have just the locals in Section 1, but you have some security guards maybe between Section 1 and Section 2 just to avoid any possible stuff because there's alcohol involved. There's a lot of emotions involved. It's a rivalry, all this fun stuff. Things can happen. And we know things happened earlier in the season. I forget who it was with, where there was a confrontation between some, potential fans of a team. I believe it was our friends from RGV, right? Yes. Thank you, producer Andy. RGV, there was some moments of confrontation. And when we dove into it, we found it was just a very small group of people that were part of that either fan group or supporters group or family fans and supporters, who knows what it was, but we learned it was just a really small group of people. It actually happened, but it wasn't something where we're going to call out an entire fan base for bad behavior or something like that. So I have no idea what happened in this situation. I wasn't there. Larry is admitting he only heard one side of the story. There's probably multiple sides to the story. There could have been something with one or two drunk locals that are in that section. And again, it's bad planning when you're going to put a traveling fan base in a section with some home fans, maybe general, or, not supporters, not hardcore fans, just sort of general Orange County local fans. It's just never a good mix, right? So I think there's a lot of places where you could put blame on this, and it's not just on the San Diego fans. It's not just on the Orange County fans. It's also on Orange County in general and the ticket sales group for doing something like that. And I've noticed that in past games that you have some Orange County fans there in Section 1. I'm like, that's a recipe for disaster at some point. And apparently something happened. Who knows the extent, but something happened. So it's something that maybe the club will learn I think the club tends to learn from things that happen and how to fix things. And hopefully this is one of those things where maybe you're going to look at it. Maybe you don't always have to do that, because when you're playing against maybe what I forget some of the East Coast teams that came out and visited us this year, but if you're getting someone that maybe is going to pull 10 traveling fans because it's just a crappy trip in the middle of the week or something, you don't have to worry too much about that. But when it's a San Diego, towards the end of the season, San Diego's fighting for championship, and San Diego's even making this a big thing, calling out that they've qualified and we've been eliminated from playoff contention on their social medias, right? You're going to get a lot of San Diego fans coming up, and it's going to maybe boil over. Alan, again, I know you weren't part of this. You weren't sitting in the section. You can't give us any indication of what happened unless you've spoken to any fans that were there. But I want to let you speak on behalf of San Diego fans, because, again, I'm not trying to call out all San Diego loyal fans or all locals. I get it was probably just a very small portion of the fan base that may have done something, and who knows, the Orange County fans may have done something to provoke it. But I want to let you speak on behalf of San Diego's, fan base and San Diego loyal.
Yeah, I know that what I do know is that there were certain individuals that maybe did not respond to the situation in the best way possible, and that alcohol may have impaired their ability to think rationally in the situation. And there were some that were trying to be respectful, but also was like, you've allowed us to bring a drum and a flag in, and so we're going to play the drum and we're going to wave the flag, and sorry that blocks your view, but this is where you put us and you allowed to bring us in. So I think, I'm not sure that person, if it did happen, I would assume that that person would have had something happen to them. And I think a majority of the locals would have been supportive in that endeavor if that is what indeed happened. And I would echo that as well, right? Like, you're coming into Orange County and you have the right to be an obnoxious away fan to a certain point. Mm-hmm. But when when you're doing something that you're physically touching or spitting or that kind of stuff, I think that's where it crosses the line. And if that happened, I don't speak for all the locals, but I would apologize to those Orange County fans. I know there was some issues with people being put into a section, and I think this is something that we can learn from. Is Orange County, San Diego people are going to probably show up in a decent enough number to fill more than a couple rows. And maybe that's a conversation that needs to be open between the two front offices. And maybe there was a communication error on the San Diego side. I can't speak to any of that, but I do know that there was people that probably reacted and overreacted in a way that was not healthy to a comfortable resolution. And I know that there are some people who tried to be as respectful as possible in that situation. I can reach out to the president of the locals and get maybe his side of the story and share it with you. But I think at this point it's, hey, if that happened, I would apologize and make sure that that fan is identified and maybe they don't get to come to trips anymore. If that's the type of behavior that they display at an away game. Obviously language is something a little bit harder to police as well, but and maybe that's something to consider as well for the locals who travel, they take a bus and they're drinking all the way up. Like maybe that you don't start drinking right away. Maybe there's like let's get you on the bus and going, and then we can start the beers so we're not hammered. I
Alan,
do think there's a level.
You don't need to make that kind of thing. That's going to happen with soccer. I mean, Orange County fans did that when we went to LAFC and the team
right.
provided.
Well, what
us.
I mean
we were
is
all hammered.
There's a difference.
There, right?
There's a difference between like having a good buzz going and being like inebriated by the time you get to the stadium, right? Like if you are like beyond gone and the game hasn't started yet, like I think that might lead to some problems, right? Some bad decisions being made. But I don't know. It's one of those. I think people are learning because, to be fair, like before San Diego, you had Los Dos was your closest rival, and Phoenix would bring people occasionally, but not as consistently as like every away game that you have with San Diego, and we've had 2 this year. So that's also something that's a little bit new. And Los Dos is bringing 3 people, maybe like their parents drive them. Who the kids are under 16, their parents drive them down to the game. But I do think this is a conversation that we can continue to have. Is we don't want to delve into like, I don't want to say hooliganism because we're not anywhere near that. But like there's acceptable behavior and there's unacceptable behavior, and if there's unacceptable behavior, those things should be dealt with.
I agree with that statement. I'm not trying to say your statement's wrong, Alan. I'm going to say this, right? Language shouldn't really be a major concern. Really, in this instance, right? You shouldn't be sitting families in a supporters group section regardless, unless the families know that, in fact, this is either the home supporter section. Because I tell any families, I bring like my youth soccer team. Hey, there, I talked about my team there. So whoever had 38 minutes,
bingo,
39th minute, we'd be on there. But I bring some of my families out to the game and I give them the warning that we're going to sit near County Line Coalition. And although for the most part, it's a really great environment, you're going to hear some pretty adult language throughout the match from a variety of people. Just expect that. Just know that'll happen. Yeah, Dylan, point to yourself there, right? But again, and this is just me saying, right, is American sports has never really followed what Europe does. If you look at Europe, if you're an away fan, you go to a specific section and it's only the away fans. There's no home fans there because you want to avoid the hooliganism, the violence, the fights, the rambunctiousness. I don't want San Diego fans, I don't want Orange County fans when they are traveling to have to say, okay, I can't drink until I get to a stadium. I can't have fun. I want everyone to have fun. Maybe we have to know our limits. I know Dylan was pointing me out for that LAFC game, but Dylan, come on. Although I was pretty drunk, I'm a friendly drunk. I'm a nice drunk. I just talk to people a lot. I was basically welcoming all the LAFC fans into their home stadium and asking them to come cheer for us instead. But I wasn't getting in fights. The police even were laughing at me saying, go ahead, keep doing it. You're not causing any trouble, right? So if LAPD is saying it's okay, then I was good. But again, this is maybe more on the club needs to just figure out the way these things need to happen when you have these local derbies, these local rivalries. We know San Diego travels well. It's happened in the past. So maybe we need to make sure, you probably shouldn't be selling season tickets in section 1 to local fans. Those can be one-off seats with the sort of asterisks that, hey, this is where the away fans sit. If you want to be there, you got to know that you're going to probably hear a lot of noise. There's going to be a lot of people standing, yelling, flags, drums, whatever. But again, who knows how this will work out? Because I know Orange County is just trying to pack the house. And if that section holds 500 people, I know it doesn't, but if it holds 500 people, San Diego's bringing 350. I'm sure Orange County's like, well, I want to get 150 more people into the stands. Those are seats available. Let's sell these. There has to be some sort of game plan in this when it's a intense rivalry like this, because things can happen. People are going to drink at soccer matches. It's not like people are going to be dry at a soccer match. They're going to drink. They're going to be getting wild. They're going to be getting rowdy. And in a close, intense match like this, there's going to be emotions from both sides. So that's all I got to say on this. Again, I want to just make sure everyone knows we're not saying it was the entirety of the locals or entirety of the San Diego fan base. It was a small portion of the fan base that maybe does that whole thing where we say the small portion makes it look bad for everyone. But I've talked to a lot of the San Diego fans. When we had our stadium issue coming, in recent months, a lot of the San Diego fans were very vocal and supportive of Orange County staying at Championship Soccer Stadium. So we know that there's some really great people in that fan base. So I just want to make sure we're not making or calling out an entire fan base for maybe a few people making some bonehead decisions while being inebriated or being very passionate about a game. Brad, you've been quiet. Last thoughts on this before we talk about our season scoring prediction scores.
I mean, I don't want to be a downer, but I don't like spending 10 minutes on something that, whenever rowdy fans come up to town, we should know that this happens and there should be a more dedicated game plan. I don't know who to blame because obviously I wasn't there, but I think, it's a little repetitive saying, hey, fans are being stupid fans when we know what really stupid fans can look like. Look at Mexico earlier this year, Indonesia last weekend, and all around the world. We don't have fans like that in America. And if someone gets spat on and that we're going to spend 10 minutes talking about it, I think we should consider ourselves lucky that that's the controversy in the USL.
Well, Brad, whenever in doubt, just blame Dylan, and you're good with that answer.
I will.
Let's get to our score predictions. What do our standings look like at this point? There's only a couple games left in the season. I know
there
I'm
should
not
be
winning.
a little. There it is. No, I do not have 94 unless I lost 60 points, 50 points somewhere. I should.
You only have 44. You only have 44, Brad. That's perfect.
No, sorry.
I like that.
I should also have 94. That should read 94 for me, 94 for Dylan.
No
Ray
correction
was
needed for
65.
Brad. Keep it as is so that I'm not in last. I love it.
Alan is running away with it still in terms of the original 4 of us that were in the prediction game.
But now Larry's officially part of this group.
No, yes, but no.
I came in far too late. I am the fan here for this season. Next year I'll be, everybody's got to beat me.
Yeah, I like that idea. Plus, Larry deserves some recognition. He's been killing it. Larry is at 130, and he is the only quote-unquote fan ahead of anybody, with Nathan closely behind Alan at 107.
So I guess if we're going with our original rules, then Larry's the only person at this point that will win a prize.
Indeed.
I think I've clinched, right? Because you can only get 10 points max, right?
Do we have 2 or 3 games left?
We have 2 games left.
So then, yes, it would be a clinch.
So for the final 2 matches of the season, we're going to do double the points.
Open your mouth, a fly flies in.
I love the laughing in the background, Larry. I love the laughing in the background. Someone is listening in on what we're talking about here. I love it. I'm
about to mute her. Get out.
All right.
Let's do this. But no, I'm joking there. We're going to go by the rules. So Larry may win a prize. I'll figure out what the prize is that you get, Larry. But let's do this. Before we move in and talk really briefly about the upcoming match, I do want to talk about an argument that happened between Brad and Larry on social media. I believe was it Devin Kerr that went out and said who should be the MVP of the season? Am I correct?
Devin doesn't watch soccer.
And he put 3 names that Larry was very upset that there was no Milan Iloski included on that list. Brad's like, well, Milan's on like the worst team in the West. He doesn't deserve to be on the list. I don't know what Dylan and Alan think. They've just been quiet. They don't sort of participate in our discussions except for like an hour before we're going to go live on video. So I have no idea what their thoughts are on this. Well, Dylan's not on social media, so he wouldn't even have known about this argument. I will say this right now, Larry, and I apologize. I'm on Team Brad on this. Milan's on like the worst team on the roster. MVP is literally most valuable player. How much better does Milan make this team? Like as far as like their record, their standings, their points on the season. If he's not on Orange County, how much better or how much worse is Orange County? I think they'd still be in last place in the West Conference, right?
Iloski,
They'd still be in last place.
Orange County Soccer Club is the worst team in USL Championship this year without Milan Iloski. Okay,
I don't think so.
Okay, sorry. Our New York Red Bulls too, I guess. I don't know. Orange County Soccer Club has a very, very, very limited amount of positives this year. And the shining positive, obviously, is Milan. Whether a team wins or loses does not dictate who the MVP is. I'm going to throw some names out to you. You ready? Okay.
They better be soccer-related names. Soccer-related names.
Man, I don't know who wins MVP for soccer. Nobody does. They don't even have.
We're going to make an argument. You better. I think Dylan seems to know because he's sort of saying, "I know."
But the guy who wins MVP scores goals. You're not going to give MVP to a midfielder with 5 assists on a season.
Let me say this, Larry. There is a Golden Boot award for that person that scores a lot of goals, regardless if their team wins or not.
Absolutely.
MVP is someone that makes their team in so much better than they would have been without him. And unfortunately, what did Milan Iloski do? And then I'll let Brad talk really quick, and then I'll let you argue, and I'll let Dylan and Allen jump in here really quick. We can't spend too much time on this, right? Without Milan Iloski, we're 13th in the West.
Yeah.
With Milan Iloski, we're 13th in the West.
Right. But in the overall,
so prove to me that he made us that much better.
We're only 6 points behind number 12. Without Milan Iloski, this team has got 18 points on the whole season instead of 33 or whatever we've got. The wins and losses do not dictate who the most valuable player is. I am not saying that Milan should win. I am not saying that he should win. But you cannot have an MVP discussion without Milan Iloski. I don't care who the other players are. The discussion cannot happen without him. That's all I'm saying. I'm still here, but go ahead, Brad.
Brad, if you want to throw anything on top of what I've said, go for it.
All right. I mean, yes, I agree with you. Milan should be mentioned. I'm not saying he's a top 3 mention. He's a top 6 mention.
What?
Yeah, no, I believe that with all of my heart. Obviously for me, your top 3 probably includes Tainter. I know that in his original tweet, Devin Kerr had Tainter, Enzo Martinez out of, I believe, Birmingham, and Haji Berry out of Colorado Springs. I would probably leave Haji Berry off that original list. I know he's done amazing things this year and was definitely one of the best players in the league last season as well. But, 1, he's not with the league anymore. But 2, the team's had a pretty dismal second half to the season after starting off on fire. And I think they're still 3rd place, but it's close in the West. But, Haji Berry for me is the best player on a team that's kind of slipped a little. The names I would add to this list instead are probably either one of Philip Goodrum or Aaron Malloy out of Memphis, who have really this was a team, I looked it up at the very beginning of the season, was projected to be like the 25th or 26th best team in the USL Championship, according to the power rankings. Now they're 2nd place in the East and still not eliminated from hosting all Eastern Conference playoff matches. They're still in the running for best team in the East. And without those 2 players, I think Memphis wouldn't even be a playoff team. So those would be probably, if it wasn't Tainter, who I think has been absolutely stellar on defense out the whole season, it would be one of those 2 guys, in my opinion. Although there's a lot of very qualified names in the league. However, I love Milan. I hope he can hold on to his lead, which seems almost unreachable at this point for the Golden Boot. But he's the best player on a team that is the worst in the West. And yes, I think this team would still be worse in the West without him. I don't think it's as bleak as you're putting it. But in baseball, there's stats for everything. I know you wanted to bring up some names like Cal Ripken. There is a stat for everything: wins above replacement, slugging, literally everything.
There was no war. So.
But in all the sports that I could find that gave MVPs to players on losing teams, it's just baseball. Although there is some MVPs for like the NBA finals where the team didn't even win the final. I think Mr. West, Jerry West won
for
the
first
Lakers.
MVP final on a losing team.
Exactly.
But that's back in the days before you knew what MVP truly meant, which is like a valuable player to a good team.
But that's different though.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a close series and each game, each game should have been, you know, but over the whole season, we can't take away from what Milan's done. He will win a trophy for all of this. He will get his recognition. He will get a payday at the end of this, I'm sure, this year, next. But I don't think an MVP award is justified when you look at the bigger picture. Sure, he scored a lot of goals. Sure, he has a couple of assists, but the team's not in the playoffs.
So let me say this right now. I'm not Team Brad anymore because Brad seems to be more middle of the road, that maybe you should talk about him, but he really isn't a serious contender. Larry's like, you absolutely need to consider him. I'm like, he doesn't really deserve to be on that list because he didn't make his team much better. They would have been last anyways without him, right? I'm going to go to you, Alan. Your thoughts on this. Are you Team Larry, Team Brad, or Team Ray on this argument now? Now there's three sides to this argument.
Using John Morrissey's goal above replacement, Milan Iloski is one of the highest rated players in the league, along with like Leo Fernandez and a familiar name like Aiden Quinn. So
that should be our MVP list right there, is those three names, is what Alan's saying.
I find it a little bit challenging to name someone MVP on a losing side, but also like, I guess it depends on what your philosophy of most valuable player is. Like Milan Iloski on every other team probably makes that team better. He's responsible for
pretty much every other team, but on Orange County, he doesn't.
Well, I mean, it's like a 10-point difference. So yes, you're still last place, but you're not. Orange County would have been eliminated several weeks ago, or several weeks prior. Without a Milan Iloski, I think it's just hard to. It's hard when you're like the guy on this team, because who else is scoring goals on Orange County right now, or for Orange County right now? He just happens to be the guy who's getting those goals. But I think he should be like talked about like hey, he's an amazing season. He's going to win the Golden Boot, and then all right, let's talk about the guys who. We're maybe in a better position to win an MVP award. It's usually goals, like that's usually what gets you up there. So I think based on that as well, I think Milan Iloski deserves to be like considered as in the conversation, as a kind of a shout out to him. I might even argue Danny Crisostomo is more valuable to his team, because he's like their little engine that could, but you know what I mean, for Las Vegas
train there, huh?
Yeah. But I think he deserves to get a shout out in the MVP, but I don't think anyone's giving him a first place or second place or third place vote. I think he's going to get.
Let me just go straight here to the voice of reason, Mr. Dylan. I know Dylan's going to agree with me on this argument that Milan Iloski on a last place team that would have been last place regardless. If Milan isn't here, we're still last place.
Wait,
so how can you make an argument?
Before he answers, Ray, I'm looking for clarification here. Is he even on the ballot in your case? You're saying
in my case, no, he's not on the ballot.
Not even
an MVP. Because for me, an MVP makes your team that much better. And what did he do? He took a team that without him would have been last in the West and made them last in the West. He did not make them that much better. He does win the Golden Boot. That is an impressive award, regardless of if you're on the best team, the worst team in the league. You still scored a lot of damn goals. He gets that props. But unfortunately, if Orange County was maybe 7th place and fighting for playoffs right now, you can make an argument for him that he took what would have maybe been a 12th or 13th place team and put him to 7th or 8th place. But he took what without Milan is a 13th place team and put him in 13th place. Dylan, last word on this before we have to move on. And I know you agree with me, so just share with everyone else that you agree with me, because I know you.
Man, would we just waste another 10 minutes of the show? But yeah, he's in great form. He deserves the golden boot. But to me, it doesn't make sense to give the MVP to a player that kicking and screaming, not to make the throwback to a 18-year-old movie now, but has tried his best to drag this club into matches, and very much has done so, only to be let down. So, look, he's not the MVP because we suck as a team, and
is he on your ballot?
That's why Dylan is one of the original members of the show. We got to talk really quick about the upcoming match. We got an upcoming match to start a Texas two-step against El Paso Locomotive. Quickly from each of you, your thoughts on this match. And when I say quickly, like spend like 15 seconds, 30 seconds max on it. I'll go to you first, Alan.
El Paso
was not ready for that.
El Paso has a midweek game, so they're not going to be as rested. Orange County has been playing pretty decent as late, so I think Orange County wins this one 2-1.
And we look at this. El Paso is one of those teams fighting for a playoff spot. They're in 7th right now with 43 points. Right behind them is RGV and Las Vegas there with Dan and Chrysostomos. So Alan's potential MVP candidate over Milan Iloski is still keeping his team involved in that. Brad, your thoughts on this El Paso match?
Eric Calvillo finds a way to score against his former team that he won a championship with, and we really get to see Larry's theory on how bad this team is without Milan Iloski, because he's on suspension due to yellow card accumulation. I have this game 1-0 El Paso.
Dylan, since you're the voice of reason on this podcast, what are your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I actually got a little story. Out in the West Texas town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl.
I need his prediction for the record.
That would be Marty Robbins, in case you were wondering.
It's 2-0 El Paso, this one. I don't see how we're going to get anything going without Milan.
Well, I guess, Larry, this is your opportunity. Like, this match is your opportunity for Milan to prove that he should be MVP, because if Orange County gets blown out here and can't score a goal, maybe your argument's true. But Larry, your thoughts on this one?
Alan actually took my thought. Midweek game for them against a pretty good Colorado Springs team. I think that's going to take some legs out of El Paso, and even without Milan, I think we're going to come out of there with a draw. I don't have a score. I don't have numbers yet, but I think it's going to come out with a draw. It's going to be like maybe 0-0, 1-1, something like that. I love
you, Larry, that you're making an argument for my case that Milan doesn't need to be a candidate for MVP, because you're saying even without Milan, Orange County is going to compete against the playoff contender. So thank you very much.
I'm saying that we're going to compete against the playoff contender who has a midweek game and are going to be short on legs.
But we didn't need Milan to compete against them, and thus we're going to eliminate him from MVP. Here we go. Ready? We're going to seal a win without Milan in El Paso. We're going to win 2-1 against El Paso. And again, that proves that although Milan is a great goal scorer, and I love Milan Iloski, he's been on this show a few times. So nothing against the guy, but he's not the MVP because he is not that. I mean, he's important to this team, but he's not the all-important figure that is catapulting us to higher levels this season. Unfortunately. If the season goes differently and we're fighting for playoffs, then we're going to make an argument for Milan, because he took a team that John Morrissey, I think, was saying is like an 8th place team in the West into title contention. So is that good for you, Larry?
Random soccer news, anyone?
Anyone have any random soccer thoughts they want to share?
Soccer team.
Oh, I'm not going to talk about my kid's soccer team getting destroyed over the weekend and having bruises at practice on Monday. Bruises on the knee. My son got stomped on the feet a couple times.
Okay.
Yeah, you brought it up, Dylan. I'm just letting you know I'm not going to talk about them, though. Brad, random soccer news. Do you have anything?
I already mentioned the whole Indonesian. Yes, that stuff. I don't want to bring it up, but go read that report of the NWSL stuff. If you can stomach past the first 2-3 paragraphs, you can understand why people are upset. And I'm not even going to go into detail about it. Just read it. It's disturbing, and we talk about how soccer deserves better. I'm happy to see supporter groups stand up for players and starting to hold ownership accountable in cities like Portland and Louisville.
And are we're hearing like bad news out of Chattanooga too, right? For stuff going on there. Man, U.S. soccer is not looking good recently. The U.S. Soccer Federation and the way they're handling, because they're the ones that are basically in charge of these leagues in the U.S. and with
Starts
the
at the
Orange
top.
County, LA Galaxy stuff, NWSL stuff, Chattanooga stuff. Man, it's just not looking good. Anyway, Alan, do you have any other soccer stuff you wanted to talk about?
Believe players.
Amen.
All right, there we go. Dylan, anything to add? Larry?
Top that.
Random soccer news. Erling Haaland has scored 14 goals in 8 Premier League games. That is unreal. It's unbelievable. And if you ever watched Game of Thrones or the new House of Dragons, you will notice that Erling Haaland is a Targaryen. There's no question whatsoever.
Dude's like
Look
a
it up, you'll see
giant
what I'm
with
talking
like
about.
massive pace. I mean, how could someone that big, other than Albiskendi, how can someone that big be that fast?
That big, that fast, that athletic. He's ridiculous. Never seen anything like him.
So is that the thing we're missing from Albiskendi is the athleticism? We have the size, the speed, just not the athleticism. is what Larry's saying. Is that's what Albiskendi's missing is to be the next Erling Haaland.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
All right, random thoughts. Let's go through our random thoughts really quick. Let's go to Larry first. Random thought, Larry.
And
I have you've been here enough. Thoughts. You knew this was coming.
Yeah, I random thought. Why my son suddenly decided that he wanted to play lacrosse is beyond my comprehension. But you know what? Let's go, dude. Let's learn how to play. Go have fun.
Was it like the origins of lacrosse? Like the Native Americans used to play like 300 versus 300, like on a big gigantic field with sticks and balls, and like some of them would die or something like that. I mean,
yeah, I'm not that old. I'm older than you guys, but I'm not that old, so I don't know.
Oh, I thought you participated in some of those matches back in the days, Larry. Alan, random thought from you.
Believe players.
So original there from your soccer thought there. So different. Brad, random thought from you.
I tried baking today with gluten-free style, and I made some banana bread. And it's not that it's like difficult to make. I love cooking, by the way. But turned out pretty good. So give me more suggestions on things to make.
There we go. Brad. Dylan, random thought from you. Beer.
Honor. It's a dang good beer, man. I'll tell you what.
Happy Oktoberfest.
Oh, yeah. Oktoberfest was actually last month, right? It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Oh, here we go. Ready? You get to hear all the sound effects like Alan does when he's on the USL show right there, right? But we played our first October match with my youth soccer team. Here is the first signed ball that will go up for auction at the end of October. You can see all the players sign their name with their jersey number and all that fun stuff on there. My team lost 4-0. We have the scoreline on there if anyone wants to buy this ball too. These will be up for auction. There'll be like 3 other balls that we're going to put up for auction. All proceeds are going to go towards a breast cancer awareness / support charity. So even if you don't care about having a ball signed by a bunch of 10 and 11-year-olds, it does go to a good cause. So we will share how that will happen on there. Oh, and by the way, when Alan first joined our podcast, he sort of would end the episodes. We would be done. And then Dylan and I would ask him, what did you get from your Dinnerly or Blue Apron or whatever it was, right? And he would share with us what he got, and he'd actually show us he'd start cooking it while we're talking for a half hour after the shows. I just started doing one of those services where they deliver the ingredients and the recipe and you make food. It's actually pretty cool because we've tried things that I've never tried before as far as recipes and even proteins and foods. And my youngest son, Kian, he actually has helped me out on making some of these meals. And I think doing that, he is enjoying some foods he probably wouldn't have enjoyed in the past, like green beans and broccoli and all that fun stuff that that 10-year-olds love. So I'm excited about it. It's fun. And like tonight we did some shrimp with some udon noodles. Tomorrow I'm doing some tilapia with some broccoli. Every meal we've tried so far, we've tried 4 meals. They've all been awesome. So I'm excited to try this journey and not have to go shopping for at least half of the groceries every week because someone delivers it in a box that has a bunch of fake ice that is probably really good for the environment. So I know Dylan's excited about it. But yeah, it's pretty fun. Thank you everyone for listening to this episode. I want to thank all the people that always participate on this and help out with that, which is Brad, Dylan, Alan, Larry, our producer, Andy, and all you listeners who comment and share your thoughts on what we're talking about and listen to us, support us, say hi to us when we're at the stadiums. We appreciate all the support. With that said, this is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast. We're done with this. We're done with this episode. We are out.